morning we are heading out to the garden. The big girls already beat me out here, so they're getting a head start. We are picking everything that's able to be picked. Heading into later this week, we have a heat wave coming in, but also a ton of thunderstorms, just like 4 days or 5 days of pretty much nothing but rain on and off. So we are going to take advantage of the rainy days. We're going to be stuck inside. We're going to be doing a ton of canning. My mother-in-law dropped off a ton, and I mean a ton of produce from her garden, lots of extras that she had. So we're going to be canning all of that up, plus whatever we harvest out of the garden today, essentially. So we're going to try to get things done while we can and take advantage of the weather that's just kind of been given to us. So that's what we're doing this morning. We're going to pick off everything that we possibly can and hopefully start canning some green beans, because I weighed the green beans that my mother-in-law brought over yesterday, and we have like 15 pounds of green beans that we need to process. So that's kind of my plan for today, but we'll see what actually ends up happening. But I've got helpers around checking out all of the things. They said they picked a couple of zucchini, so we'll see kind of what they left over here. I always forget a knife to bring out here to cut off some of this lettuce. I want to cut some of this off and bring it over to some of my neighbors because it's looking really great, and I want to get especially this green stuff before the heat wave hits. It's gonna bolt, so I'm probably gonna send a kid in to get me something to cut these off with.
Some of these are flat. Here, tore them up to the sun and you can see how many peas are in them.
Little update on the raspberries. A couple of videos ago I was trimming them off. We had some sort of like larvae that was in the actual cane of the plant, and it was starting to eat them, rot them, kind of like a squash vine borer does with squash plants, but this variety was eating off our raspberries. Well, things have been going much better since I trimmed them off. I only had to come out here once or twice to trim off a couple other pieces that either I missed or the larvae had been planted in or laid and then moved down into different parts of the actual plant themselves. But much better, things are looking much healthier. Now the only issue is the deer are still getting in here and eating off the tops, but the good thing is that they're really resilient and they're coming back, which is great. We're getting about a handful of berries every day or so off of a ton of different varieties that we have in here, so things have been going really well with that. Just really happy that we caught it when we did and were able to actually get it fixed. With my tomatoes right now, because it's been really hot and really rainy, I'm having a lot of the same issues I had last year, where they were just getting a ton of disease on the actual plants. So I'm doing what I did last year, except this year I'm able to actually notice it a lot earlier than I did last year. It's just not usually an issue that we have here in Wisconsin because it's not really super rainy, it's not really super humid, but the last couple of summers we have had that. So we've had a lot of disease that I see people having a lot in the south. So now that I actually know what it looks like this year, I'm able to get on top of it. So I'm just breaking off the branches that are really full of disease, and then later today, probably right before dark, I'll come out here and spray them with a little bit of water, Dawn dish soap, and baking soda, just to help kind of get rid of that disease that's on there. But it's usually an airflow issue. It's really humid, really wet, and then with all of my tomatoes being really kind of crammed in close together, and now that they're getting bigger, they're all kind of intermingling with each other, and airflow isn't really a thing, and that's where you can get a lot of the disease. I'm noticing a lot more on the tomatoes that we did like a lazy Florida weave on, that I'm just trellising up with string, versus the ones that are on my cattle panels. They're spaced out a little bit better, and just the airflow is better on the cattle panels. So I think from now on we're going to have to put tomatoes on the cattle panels. I think they do better there than my lazy kind of methods here with that. But that being said, I think they're going to be fine. Just breaking off the bottom branches and things, helping get some airflow in there, but also I'll come out here and spray them and things should be really good. But other than that, tomatoes are looking pretty good. It's still early for us here in the Midwest for tomatoes, but probably in the next 3 weeks or so, tomatoes will really be starting here, but they're looking pretty good. These ones are some of my early girls, and we've got some really nice looking tomatoes on here. Early girls are usually a more small sized tomato. At least they're smaller compared to like the beefsteak and things, the hybrids that I really like to grow, but they're looking pretty good. The other thing I'm really excited about is all of the cherry tomatoes that I started died. They just got transplant shock. They didn't do well. Well, I left one in the ground because it looked like it might take, but these are the blueberry cherry tomatoes, and you can see they're so fun. I'm so excited about these. Only one plant took, but honestly that's all we need just to try them, and I'm so excited about that. But this is kind of what I'm talking about. You can see the disease that's starting here, and because all of these tomatoes are so close together and they're all crammed in, it just kind of spreads from tomato plant to tomato plant. So getting ahead of it early is important, but just breaking off a lot of the really dead stuff, and then the stuff that's really just covered in it is going to help a lot. A couple of you guys wanted to see how we were going to trellis up the black raspberries and the blackberries. So this is what we ended up doing. We already had these sticks in here, like rods, to mark out the different varieties of berries where things started and stopped. So Joe just ran a piece of twine here. This is the same twine I used for my tomatoes. And then if the said plants were tall enough, Joe just tied them from the actual plant themselves to the string just to help keep them up so they're not snapping themselves over. And this is what we call temporary permanent, which means it's a temporary fix that is going to be permanent until we have the time, the motivation, and all of the other things that are required to actually do the job properly. What that really means is my husband had a method he wanted to use for these. We had all the materials for it, so it was kind of like, yeah, let's do it. And then he started researching a little bit more, and he's unsure now if that's really what he wants to do. And it's more of a permanent fix. More like once it's in, it's going to take a lot of effort to pull it out if we decide it's not what we like. So for right now, this is a temporary solution until we figure out exactly what we actually want to do for like a real solution. But that's kind of his wheelhouse, so I'm gonna let him decide what he wants to do for that. But we did that for the blackberries that are back here, and then we have a ton of smaller, more plugs that we put in, and they're just not tall enough to be trellised yet. And then we have some gooseberries in here, which we've been grabbing just a couple berries off of these blackberries back here. Some of the blackberries have been producing, which is really exciting. Mostly the black or the red black raspberries. I don't know if that makes sense, but they're starting to come in, which is exciting because last year we didn't get any. So it's cool to see that we're finally getting some. But since we're out in the orchard, I might as well show you guys. We have a couple pears coming in on a couple different varieties of pear trees here. We had all these labeled. We put them in last year. We had them labeled, but some of the labels fell off. So it's kind of also memory. My husband has a layout of everything that we planted and where we planted it. So we have the actual documentation of what's planted where. It's just I don't specifically know exactly what is what, but my husband does. So I'm not sure what type of pear that is. I'm going to assume it's probably a Bartlett pear. But last year we plucked all of the flowers, all the apples, all the cherries, all the things off of the trees because we wanted the trees to not focus on producing, but to focus on getting really good root systems in and growing really strong, which worked out really well for us. I would highly recommend that if that's what you were planning on doing. But now you can see, this year we did the same thing. We picked a lot of the flowers off, a lot of the apples off, but we decided to leave just a couple just to see how they produce, and also so we get some taste testing off of these. So I'm pretty sure this is a king apple tree. These grow huge apples, like 2 to 3 pound apples, hence why they're called king apples. They're really good up in the north where we live, zone 4B, but you can see we have tons of apples on these, which is great. And we picked off a ton of apples off of these trees too. Turn red. So I'm so excited to have just little fun snacking apples this fall. So excited about that, but they're all the way up, which is so fun. We also had a ton, and I mean a ton of cherries come in, but we were eating those as they were coming in. We'd come out to the orchard pretty much every night. The kids would run out here in the morning, pick what was fresh. We had them for breakfast, for late night snacks. They were delicious. So we pretty much just ate the cherries as they were coming up off of the trees. But you'll see this is another pear tree. Does this one have a label on it? It does. Let's see what this one is. Yes, this is a Bartlett pear, but we've got some more pears coming in. Just a couple that are going to be snack worthy, which is really exciting. This is another king apple tree with lots of apples on it. You can see, very excited about all of these things. And if you see any flowers that we put in here, this is some bee balm. It's beautiful. It's a really great pollinator flower. We get all of our flowers basically from our neighbor. She propagates everything. She teaches classes at some local colleges and like the library and stuff for free. And she has come over to show us how to propagate all of our berries and things. So we have some hascaps or some honeyberries that we're propagating right now. She showed us how to do that, where to cut them, how to actually propagate them, which is super, super awesome. So she is just a wealth of knowledge. The other thing that those same neighbors gave us is, because the deer was getting in, they were eating some of our cherry trees. So we asked them, like, hey, do you have any recommendations here? And he said, hey, I've actually got these like cage things that I built last year to keep those same deer out of his cherry trees. And he's like, they're just sitting in my yard. I'll roll them over for you. So he gave us a couple of these like makeshift little cages for the trees to keep the deer out. He gave us a couple of those. So we have a couple of those around the trees that the deer were really eating, and it's helping so much. They're just tall enough where the deer can't kind of like get over to eat the trees. So they're giving our trees the break that they really needed to be able to grow and thrive and get the deer off of them. And now the deer have moved on to my beans, which is annoying, but I'd much rather have them eating the beans and the berries than all of our trees. So there's that. The only thing that I don't think has had anything on them are our peach trees, but I could be wrong about that. Now that I'm thinking that, I do think I remember seeing some fuzzy peaches. Okay, I think I have a peach tree over here that has some peaches on it, which is really exciting. So here's one of our peach trees. I'm pretty sure this is a veteran's peach, but you can feel the fuzzy little peaches. Just a handful of them on here. Once again, just to kind of get a snack worth to taste test, which is really exciting. That's pretty much everything that's happening in the orchard right now, but maybe this fall when things are really ready, we'll have to do a taste test. We'll sit down and we'll taste test everything that's coming out of the orchard and things, all of the berries, all of the apples and peaches and pears and stuff that are going to start coming out. We'll have to see how that goes. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I hope wherever you guys are, you're having a fantastic day, feeling really good. We're gonna go inside. We're gonna get some prep ready for all of the canning that we're gonna be doing later this afternoon and getting everything washed up. So make sure you subscribe, because that video will probably be coming up next, where we're actually processing and cleaning everything, getting everything ready to actually eat. So I hope wherever you guys are, you're having a fantastic one. I hope it's not too hot where you are, especially if you're in the Midwest here. This heat index that's coming is supposed to be crazy. And I will see you guys in another one. Bye.